Welcome in, everybody, to the West Side Sports Podcast. It is March 17th. Happy St. Patrick's Day to everybody who celebrates of this beautiful 2025 year. I am your host, as always, Dakota Esri. Please do me a huge favor. If you enjoy this content, the channel, and topics I bring to you guys on a week-to-week basis, please do me a huge favor, subscribe, and leave a like on the video. If you would like to comment, please comment in the section down below. It has been one hell of a week to be a Seahawks fan, to be a PNW native, right? We're going to cover everything that's happened. And specifically, this is going to be a Seahawks dominant video. There will be some Mariners stuff sprinkled at the end. But we'll start at the beginning and work our way towards where we stand current today with the Seattle Seahawks. First and foremost, Geno Smith traded to the Las Vegas Raiders. I was not anticipating that at all. I've been on the record multiple times stating that I anticipate him to be here with the organization for the 2025-2026 season. However, things change. Landscapes change, timelines change, and people change. I'm going to be referencing something in this show today that multiple times, and it's because I really want to drive this home, right? That we are going to give money, right, and contracts to people that want to be here, right? When I say be here, I mean being a Seattle Seahawk. I believe with every faction of my being, every fiber of my being, that Geno did not really want to be here in Seattle. I felt like he did his best to make it appear that way. And yes, that's easy to say now that he's in Las Vegas. He's not a Seahawk, right? But watching Geno Smith play football was one of the most aggravating and least rewarding things I've done being a Seattle Seahawks fan. And I've been a Seahawks fan my entire life. That's because we were spoiled with Russell, right? We had a franchise quarterback drafted third round, 90th overall. He was a leader of men. Regardless of how people feel about Russell, he is the best quarterback in the history of this organization, no question. Hall of Fame, I don't believe that'll be the case, but that's a different conversation for a different day. But Geno Smith traded for a third-round pick to Las Vegas. That pick will be in the 90s. I believe it's the 93rd overall pick in the 2025 NFL Draft. Geno gone. You clear that money. And then right after that happens, that was on Friday, and then Sunday the news comes out. I believe it was about 3:30 on Sunday. I was listening Hawk Blogger Morning Live with Brian Nemhauser, Evan Hill. Please give those guys a check out. Brian and those guys do an awesome job. Brian's like 350-something straight days of Seahawks content. So if you want content more than what I bring you, highly recommend you check him out. He does a fantastic job working on trying to get him to the show as well. But with Seahawks making the decision to move on from Geno Smith and the decision to trade DK Metcalf for a second-round pick that is a 53rd overall pick in the NFL Draft, 2025, NFL Draft, the Seahawks, to some people, appear to be pressing the reset button. And I didn't really believe they were rebuilding or resetting. I believe they were retooling this roster. And some people are going to hear that and roll their eyes because, right, we've heard that from John Snyder before. We've heard that like, oh, well, we're not rebuilding, because when people hear rebuild, they think we're going to trade every player that's on an expiring contract to get as many draft picks, like the Mariners did years and years ago to get Julio and the Kelenic and the Gilberts and the Kirbys, right? But in the NFL, that doesn't really happen that often. You know, I think there's only really a team right now that I think could be rebuilding. That's the New York Giants, maybe the Tennessee Titans, right? But when those news came out about Geno and about DK, I thought to myself, we have incredible draft capital now to build this roster and what they want it to be for the future and for upcoming years. And where it stands currently, right, is that the Seahawks have 5 picks in the top 92 in this year's NFL Draft, the most picks of any team. And that's refreshing to me. I think about what they can do with this, and some people are draft sickos like myself, where you do mock drafts all the time and trying to figure out prospects. If that's something you guys want me to do more often, try and figure out how to get some draft sheets up here, some mock drafts and stuff where I'm kind of thinking positions, spots in this draft. Please let me know down below in the comment section. But getting back to Geno and DK, I was like, well, what's the next move, right? I'm like, please, I'm just like begging. I'm pounding the invisible table. Go get me Will Fries, right? And I'll be honest, I didn't know who the hell Will Fries was till maybe a week or two before free agency. Never watched it. Didn't watch any Colts games. I knew who Quentin Nelson was, obviously. I knew who Ryan Kelly is, their center. But I didn't know who Will Fries was. And I was like, well, his PFF grades are like 80-something and change. How do I not know who this guy is? So we're like a lot of us Seahawks fans, and I've been very vocal about this on Twitter, that I want them to invest money in the offensive line. I don't care about anything more that you do. I just need you to show John that you're willing to invest in the offensive line. And then as I say that, the next move that happens is they sign Josh Jones, who's a swing tackle, played it a little bit with the Cardinals, a little bit with the Baltimore Ravens. I'm like, okay, so that's your George Fant replacement, right? Not to like make everything comparative or like a comparison to a Seahawk player, but he's a backup swing tackle. I think he's at every rep at every position besides for center. So that's good to have. It's in case of, an injury on the line, which is bound to happen at some point of the year. And fingers crossed and knock on wood it doesn't, right? But guys get hurt. This is just the nature of the NFL. That the next move was DeMarcus Lawrence. I'm not gonna lie, I was pretty stoked because DeMarcus Lawrence has absolutely kicked our ass in Seattle for a long time. He came in and he was a game wrecker. He would tear off the edge, causing havoc on tackles and guards. But really what made DeMarcus Lawrence the big standout for me is that he could set an edge in the run game, and he was one of the best run grading edge players in all of football. The only player that had a higher grade on him or than him was Max Crosby. Max Crosby got a 3-year, $100 million, pretty much fully guaranteed contract, because Max Crosby is one of the top 10 best players in all of football. So when you look at the deals for Lawrence, right? I asked myself that. Sorry, I'm just making sure I'm not missing any news and Twitter stuff for you guys. That DeMarcus Lawrence brings the ability to have a veteran edge presence and a wealth amount of knowledge to teach Derek Hall and Boye Mafe. And Boye Mafe is in the last year of his rookie deal. He's in the same draft class as Charles Cross. So a lot of people were that was spaced my mind, to be honest with you. So I was like, DeMarcus Lawrence, cool. You have an edge player. You got a veteran. He's going to come in the room. I don't know what this means for the future for Uchenna Nwosu, to be honest with you. I still think it would benefit the team to keep him on the roster to further deepen the rotation on the edges, even though he had a bad injury, just bad luck last year. The big news everybody wants to talk about is the Sam Darnold deal. Darnold and Kupp, right? So we'll start with Darnold, then we'll go to Cooper Kupp. When the news first came out about Sam Darnold, I was very excited because it's kind of hard not to when you trade your quarterback, and the only quarterback on the roster at the time, or quarterbacks on the roster at the time, was Sam Howell and Jaron Hall. Jaron Hall being, I believe it's the third-year quarterback out of BYU, right? I've been very vocal about how I feel about Sam Howell. I'm not trying to be disrespectful to Sam Howell, but it's not good enough for me. It's never been good enough. Granted, this line was absolutely crap, to put it nicely. I'm trying to keep this podcast as clean as I can today. But it was garbage. They couldn't stop a cold. They couldn't stop. They were like a wet tissue paper. They just went right through them every time. I was watching the games last weekend at my folks' place, and I was just like watching Ken Walker get 2 steps behind the line, and he's just getting smacked over and over again. I'm like, well, yeah, no wonder why Ken Walker couldn't do anything last year, because offensive line was crap. So, but with Sam Darnold, the initial numbers come out, 3 years, $110 million. I'm like, okay, so it's like, typically doing math on these podcasts isn't a great idea, but we'll call it like $35 million a year. I'm like, okay, I don't love the number, but I don't hate the number. And then the numbers come out, a change from Adam Schefter like 20 minutes later that it's 3 years and $100.5 million. I'm like, okay, so now it's like $33 million, right? So with all that being said, right, the thing that I go back to and the information that came out over the weekend was that Sam Darnold His deal is essentially a 1-year deal, $37.5 million, and has an opt-out after year 1, which I was like, that's fantastic. And so people are going to say, well, why is it fantastic? That doesn't make any sense, right? Well, the reason why I said that is because this team is giving themselves every opportunity to be flexible for the upcoming future. Sam Darnold could come in, he could ball, and you're in a beautiful spot. You could still draft a quarterback. You could use, and if you want to use Sam Darnold as trade bait, you could get a 2nd-round pick for Sam Darnold, 3rd-round pick for Sam Darnold. We got a 3rd-round pick for Geno. Sam Darnold's 7 years younger. If he were to perform, then you would have a very valuable trade chip. Or you could let the rookie, build and play for 2 years. But I don't think that's a realistic situation to draft a quarterback and then have him sit for 2 years. 1 year, absolutely. 2 years, I don't really buy that, right? So with Sam Darnold news coming out today about the 1 year, $37.5 million, it gives the Seahawks every opportunity to be like, we will dictate our own future. And I'll tell you straight up, I keep this as transparent with you guys as I possibly can, right? Because that's part of having a channel. Is that this is the make or break year for John Snyder with this organization. You moved on from your quarterback. You moved on from your star, if you want to call him a star receiver. I believe he was still a star receiver, He's not a superstar, but he's a star receiver. His name is well known across the league channels. That you put all your draft capital or all your stock on Sam Darnold to either be great, to be pretty good, or if he struggles, then you have to draft the quarterback in this year's draft class, which is not a great class, and I went over that multiple times. That you really put all your eggs in one basket, which with how I was raised is not the greatest thing to do. You want to be able to have multiple options or multiple different avenues to go down depending upon what the circumstance or what the end result might be. So overall, happy to have Sam Darnold here. I've liked everything I've heard from him on the airwaves from Seattle, 710 Seattle Sports. The press conference shows up in a flannel. I know it's cheesy and stuff because we're the PNW. We're flannels up until summer. But it's nice to have a quarterback that has a better, I'm going to say just a better vibe about him. Geno was just so touchy, is what I'll say. It was like if you didn't make Geno happy all the time, then he just turned into a petulant crybaby quarterback. And so I appreciated the good moments with Geno, but I definitely feel like there were more bad moments than there were good moments with Geno. There was more moments where I was just like, dude, what in the hell are you doing? Throw the ball away. Versus, oh, hey, great throw, Geno. It's just like, and I know it's obviously, again, it's easy to say because he's not here. And I'm not trying to be like, an ex in a, relationship situation where you're like talking crap when they're gone. But I just feel like the organization is in a place where they're trying to get a little bit of goodwill. Right, and when we're talking about goodwill, that conversation really kind of starts with Cooper Kupp coming back to Seattle. The numbers still have not came out about this. It was reported for me and Rappaport and everybody else because the agent put out 3 years, $45 million, $15 million AY, average per year. Or APY, excuse me. But the numbers, like the guarantee numbers, still haven't come out. I think this is realistically a 1-year deal with 2 player options or 2 team options, depending upon how he performs, his health, because the dude has been injured a lot the last few years. But he is a credible receiver that is a Super Bowl MVP. And some people are going to say that happened multiple years ago. You're absolutely correct. I'm not going to, say you're wrong with how you feel or stuff like that. It's a feel-good story to be able to bring home Cooper Kupp, who's a Yakima native, who is an Eastern Washington kid, Eastern Washington University as well. It's what you needed to do to kind of get this fan base to be like, okay, this is neat. Now this is the jersey that I want to go buy. Because right now, unless you're obviously like a Witherspoon or a Byron Murphy, not Byron Young. There's not really many names like Ernest Jones that people want to buy a jersey of right now. J. Jackson Smith and Jigba, Ken Walker, maybe if you feel that good about it. But getting a little bit of goodwill and a little bit of good faith in this organization is well timed and it's really well needed currently. There's been so much change and speculation about what's going to happen with the future of this organization, this franchise, with the decisions they've made. That bring in somebody like Cooper Kupp deepens your wide receiver room, allows Cooper Kupp to pour his wealth of knowledge, like we talked about with Lawrence. The same thing applies with Kupp and JSN and Jake Bobo. I don't know how Jake Bobo will fit in with this roster. Obviously, they signed Marquez Valdes-Scantling, a deep threat who had one of his best years with the Saints last year under Clint Kubiak. So he's a good fit in this. There was a report today that Michael Gallup, a receiver formerly of the Dallas Cowboys, who had retired last season after he played about a month or so with the Raiders. Only 29 years old, was a very productive receiver when he played for Dallas. He's in on a visit right now. Tevin Jenkins, lineman, guard / tackle, but he's definitely more of a guard who is formerly with the Bears. He's in on a visit right now, and then there's also a lineman from the Saints who's currently in on a visit. So a lot of visits going on in Seattle right now. Would not be surprised if we have something pop out on news from that end. I'll keep you guys posted. Again, you can follow me on Twitter at PNWProfessor to get the updates and there for everything that comes out from the VMAC and from the credited reporters there as well. So that's kind of like a long story short about the Kupp, the Darnold, DeMarcus Lawrence, Marquez Valdes-Scantling, just kind of everything that's been going on. Josh Jones. We'll talk a little bit of Seahawks, a little bit of Mariners here, and then we'll probably wrap up here. This is going to be a little bit of a shorter show today. I don't want I have a super long one, but just something that kind of keeps the content going for you guys. There is a conversation that really needs to start happening about the bench spots on this team and the second base position, right? So we'll start with second base and then we'll finish with the bench. I don't see any physical way. I don't anymore. And I got a lot of respect for the Locked On guys, the Marine Lair guys, who do an absolutely kick-ass job with all of their content, which has also inspired me to go about and start doing this for you guys as well. That there is no reason why Dylan Moore should be starting at second base for this team right now. Dylan Moore's true value and maximum value with this organization is to be a utility player and play wherever they need him to be. Ryan Bliss has outperformed him. He has outplayed him. He has done everything the organization has asked him to do. And quite frankly, he's been a pro's pro. And he's a young kid. Still has a lot to learn, obviously. But you really look. I've talked about this with Jay on the previous show there on Jay's Trident podcast as well. That Ryan Bliss deserves to be the starting second baseman. And I feel even more validated with that today than I did beforehand because we're another week and a half into this spring training. And when I was in spring training, it was hard not to notice the incredible athleticism, the juice, the speed he brings to the roster. And quite frankly, that's what we need. That's what this organization, this team needs, is that you need more juice to help guys like Julio and like we talked about, with Dylan Moore, who's a really good stolen base threat. Robles, stuff like that. You do have guys that have some speed. Randy Rosarena is probably a 2020 guy. He's done that for the last 4 years in a row. Obviously Julio, but you need more speed. You need more juice, and I feel like Ryan Bliss has definitely earned that. And you have nothing to lose with Ryan Bliss. You can see what he does. You see what you have in him, where he's at. That gives Cole Young was reassigned to minor league camp with Ben Williamson day before yesterday. So they made that decision pretty clearly that he's not quite ready yet, which is fine. He's been dealing with a little bit of a sore shoulder. So gives him Cole Young time to go down to AAA and get everything, his ducks in a row and be ready for his next promotion and opportunity. So that's going to be something I continue to monitor. Obviously, Logan Gilbert was announced as the opening day starter. Excuse me, I'm going to get a quick drink of water for you guys. Sorry about that. But Logan Gilbert has earned in every way to be the opening day starter. Luis Castillo is a pro's pro about this. He kind of could read the tea leaves. I'm sure that Dan had the conversation before Logan was announced, and he was announced in front of the entire team about him being the opening day starter, which is a really neat accomplishment for Logan, for Walter. He's earned it. He is our workhorse. He is the ace of our staff. There'll be a conversation, I think, at the end of the year, whether it's Logan, whether it's George, it could be Bryce, it could be Brian. I don't know. And these guys could take a huge step up and make this a really fun conversation. But Logan Gilbert will be and get the nod for opening day with 46,000 and change for, I'm assuming, will be a pretty packed out opening day, regardless of all of the off-season conversation. We're going to end the show today talking about the bench. Mitch Haniger has been injured for a little while. The report came out a couple days ago from Shannon Dreyer, Ryan Divish, Adam Jude, all the guys and ladies, who cover the Mariners for the Seattle Times. It's not looking great for Mitch. It's not. I really like kind of with a similar conversation with the Demo and the Ryan Bliss conversation. I don't see a way that Mitch Haniger makes this team. I know this organization decided they want to put $15 million into him. That wasn't their choice. It was a player option. Of course, he was going to take it. They chose to just stick with him for whatever godforsaken reason. I don't never understand why they chose to do that, but that's their own decision. Each their own. Rowdy Tellez has been one of the best bats on this team in spring training. I try not to put too much stock into spring training, like I've talked about a few times here on the show and recent shows as well. But Rowdy Tellez has come in and he's hit the ball really hard consistently. He plays a little bit of first base. A little, not a lot, but he can play a little bit of first base. Allow Luke Raley to play his natural position in the outfield. And he can also DH. And I just don't, Haniger can't play the outfield anymore. He's a DH only. And I just don't, I love Mitch. I love Mitch to death. Mitch has been one of my favorite players for the Mariners for the last probably 5-6 years. He had a great year. I believe it was 2017. It's been a fun ride for Mitch, and I'm glad that when he came back last offseason, the trade in hindsight for him and Robbie Ray makes plenty of sense. Even though Haniger struggled last year, Robbie Ray was coming off Tommy John, only made 7 starts for the Giants. But Tellez has earned his spot. And Haniger is... You can't have like 3 DHs on the bench, which is why I'd say if you have Dylan Moore, Mitch Garver, Rowdy Tellez, and then I'm missing one other player on the bench conversation. But you can't have like, and if you were to have Haniger, it's just you have too many players with the same profile. You can't have 3 guys that are DHs on your bench. It doesn't really work like that. Leo Rivas might be a name. I'm assuming he's going to make the roster, even though he struggled throughout spring training as well. But just something I'm kind of going to keep an eye on in general. So, ladies and gentlemen, please do me a favor. If you guys have any comments about today's show, please drop it in the comment box down below. If you enjoy the content, please subscribe. I'm not trying to be like one of those people that's like pleading for it, but I'm really doing my best to try and grow this channel and give more opportunities to get guys on. So if you guys want to hop on, if you guys are fans, or if you're content creators just like myself trying to build up, please feel free to reach out to me on Twitter, DM me, and be love to have that conversation and continue these topics going forward. Have a wonderful rest of your day. Enjoy St. Paddy's Day. Be safe. God bless, and I'll talk to you guys next time. Peace.